Yep, it's all happening, and those dramatic images of the Iron Dome system working, quite extraordinary. Let's bring in Chris Uhlmann, our political contributor. It really is Israel pushing now, and you're seeing the results with that Iranian strike back. But Israel sees this as an opportunity, Chris, to push Iranian proxies back as far as possible right now.
Yeah, and you would think that they would want to push them back as far as the Litani River. That's to clear all the ground between the border, 30 kilometres inland. So that's a long way that they have to make sure that Hezbollah is gone from those positions. They've been dug in over so many years. Apparently there are now troops that are 5 kilometres inside the border. Now Israel is saying that they're not expecting that they necessarily will go in and stay in for a long time, but they haven't ruled it out. Of course, you can get sucked into these things too. You don't know once you've started this how it will pan out. But clearly they probably do feel a bit more empowered now to attack Iran directly. And I would suggest if there's a target they'd be looking at, it would be nuclear facilities in Iran.
And we know many Iranians don't support that regime. And if they can diminish that regime, potentially even knock it over, that would have huge ramifications, not just for that country, but the region via their proxies in places like southern Lebanon.
Yeah, I think that Israel now thinks that it might as well go all out, and it may as well. Look, it has enemies on all sides, and it now intends to clear the decks as far as it can on its borders and with those that are pushing these proxies. And Iran is the source and summit of all of this. And you're dead right that a lot of the Iranian people don't like that regime. It's hard to see it falling at the moment, yet these things can come all of a sudden, and certainly inside Lebanon, you and I both know Hezbollah is hated by a large section of the population. That's a parasitic entity inside a state within a state. And certainly the Christians in Lebanon have got no time for Hezbollah, and nor have a lot of the other Muslims in Lebanon. So interesting to see what might happen there.
Yeah, it's a good point. The head of the Maronite Christian Church has spoken against Hezbollah and against dragging Lebanon into another war, but that's exactly what they've done. I wonder what you think about the politics here, how that's playing out. There's a large group, but I don't think it affects so many seats, but it does affect the debate quite a bit in terms of our day-to-day. What's your read on it?
Well, the thing is that the Albanese government, and particularly the Prime Minister, can't find a place to stand. That's because he feels himself dragged in a number of directions at the same time. And part of the problem of that is that the Labor Party base is now pretty much pro-Palestine, right? They're fighting in seats where there are an enormous number of people who will be voting Green because they're pro-Palestine. And that's an issue for the government because Labor's traditional position is the position that both major parties have had, which has been fairly solid support for the State of Israel. And that's clearly wavering inside the Labor Party at the moment. And I think what you're seeing with the Prime Minister is him going from foot to foot. And that's always a problem. When you cannot actually work out where to stand, your position's going to appear to be weak by the difference, of course, is that Peter Dutton is being very clear about where he stands. He stands with Israel.
On finally, something you've been focusing on a lot with a documentary that's underway, but this week a few different issues on the energy front, whether it be a nuclear report in the United States or the last coal-fired power plant closing in the UK.
I think it's interesting to look at with both of those things about what's happening with energy. If you look at nuclear in the United States, there is now a huge push from both major parties for nuclear. Well, I've been to Plant Vogtle in Atlanta in Georgia. 2 units were opened there. It was opened by the US Energy Secretary, a Biden appointee, and she said 2 units down, 198 to go. So they're going pretty much all in on nuclear. Now, it's not nuclear and no renewables, it's a mix of both, which their energy department thinks will deliver them the cheapest system. So they're saying that nuclear does not rule out renewables, and they're counting it as renewable energy. 3 Mile Island sets to reopen. Who's pushing that? Microsoft. Why? Because they need the energy for a data centre. So you're going to see the amount of energy demanded in the US begin to climb dramatically because of that. Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant in California, which sought to close it, is now staying open because why? They don't have the energy generation. And you're right, they did just close the last coal-fired plant in the UK. I'd point this out though. There are 2 coal-fired plants that have been converted to biofuel. What's that? They're burning wood. 5% of the UK's energy now comes from burning wood, but a much larger percentage comes from nuclear and a larger percentage still from gas. So people need to look at where the energy sources of countries come from and not just listen to what they say, but watch what they do. And I think that we're getting stranded a bit here in Australia.
Chris Uhlmann, thanks as always. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kieran.